Okay. So, just realized that the mic was off there. Why didn't you guys let me know? Let's see here. Okay, so I'll start at the top here. So welcome to the Best College Football Podcast, everyone. Feel free to ask me questions through the Twitter Spaces. Also, in any of the chats, either on YouTube, you can follow me at YouTube at the Best College Football Podcast. You can follow me at Facebook. There's a Facebook page, and also on Twitter. I'm streaming. I'm the host as Pac-Man. So Pac-Man or at the best Pac-Man, just so to differentiate, in case you guys were listening to other Pac-Mans out there. Now, let's see. Can you guys hear me? One second here. Gosh, Can you guys hear me now? That's a lot better. Well, good thing we have a lot of people watching here, but just fixed my audio. Hey, thanks for the comment, Kirsten. I was hadn't hooked up my mic. Holy cow! Let's see. Let me know if you can. It's very echoey at all, but I think finally got it. Had myself muted for like the first 5 minutes. But anyway, so yeah, you can follow me anywhere on YouTube, like I said, at the Best College Football Podcast, Facebook, Twitter, streaming live. You can comment anywhere, and I'll see I'll see your comments everywhere we go here. So we'll go ahead and talk first. So the rankings came out yesterday after week 1. My initial reaction is Georgia should have been ranked number 1. They were ranked number 2. Still, though, SEC dominating the polls at 8 teams ranked, 8 out of 14 teams ranked. The Athletic, the Atlantic, the ACC, I can't speak right now, has 5 teams out of 14 ranked. Big 10 at 4 out of 14. Big 12 has 3 out of 14. Pac-12 and Independents both have 2, which means a lot more than the Independents since there's only 7 of them. So a little less than a third of them, 29%. And the American Athletic Conference has 1 at Houston. They just switched spots as far as from they switched with Cincinnati, which honestly I think they should have stayed ranked. They played really well against Arkansas. Now, I had a top 10 out of my favorite games coming up. My 10th, well, I did a decent job at guessing which ones were fun to watch, and that's pretty much what I wanted to do. Just kind of dig through the schedule, and um, what I do is just highlight some of the ones I want to watch so I can kind of schedule them out. Now, my 10th favorite game last week was USC, or was Rice at USC at number 14th ranked at the time. Now, Rice, let's see here. Now, they blew them out like I thought. They actually scored way more than I thought they would at 66 points. But they did let Rice score 14. Rice is a bad team, so that should not have been really that much. And the defense did, those 14 points were non-garbage time points from the bad team. So something to kind of take note there. My 9th favorite team or game of the week last week in week 1 was number 13 NC State at East Carolina. That one was a good one. I ended up coming down to the last second, really. NC State won 21-20. They did not cover. They were favored by 11.5 points. So that is pretty cool. They did struggle running the ball for NC State. And they also got to the red zone 4 times and didn't score. So that's bad news against the ECU team that is on the upward trend, but still a group of 5 team. ECU also missed an extra point and missed a field goal at the end of regulation. So they easily could have won that game, but they ended up they should have lost really, but they ended up winning. So usually NC State's been on the other side of those games, so that's kind of a good result for them. So you win your clunkers, as Saul Verbal says, but unfortunately, they're not going to have that, coming up in the coming weeks when they start their regular season. It's not going to be as easy of games. Now, my next favorite one was NC State, in North Carolina at App State. Now, I did watch a good chunk of it. Unfortunately, I missed the last quarter where App State came back and really made it a good game. But it was a good one. App State was down 20 points and came back and almost beat them. North Carolina's defense looks miserable. Not sure. I'm just not sure if Gene Chizik, if you recognize that name, is the right fit. But it is still early, so things can change. It could, hopefully, they can get the defense up because their quarterback, Drake May, looked amazing. I don't know where they get these guys from. He's just a redshirt freshman, so he looked quite amazing. And App State really played well, and they did not give up. They have so much grit, and that will be an interesting game coming up next week. And I'll talk about that next here and after the segment. But we already talked about Pitt not covering against West Virginia. But number 6 was Notre Dame at Ohio State. Now, usually I would have had a top 5 team ranked higher, but one of the things that, I just thought Ohio State was going to blow them away. Now, they did beat them 21-10, and they were pretty much they looked better than Notre Dame the whole time. But I don't know if this is on purpose, as Ohio State just decided to run the ball and play hard ball instead of just throw it and just score tons of points. Maybe it's because Jason Smith and Njiba, I can't even say his name, looked a little bit injured. Maybe tweaked something so he wasn't blowing everyone out of the water like he usually does. So who knows there, but looking forward, it'll be interesting with them. I still think they're a really great team. Ohio State is more that I thought Notre Dame was ranked super high, as they were ranked a little high, but not as high. They weren't misranked as much as I thought. They're probably still a good. They're still a great team there. So also, the next game was at Florida State at LSU. Now, I thought this was going to be a good game. I don't think many people were talking about that as a huge game, but it was a debut game for Brian Kelly. And wow, that was like a good game. That I don't know which one was the best game, but that was up there, especially with a blocked extra point by Florida State to win this. I mean, they just weren't blocking this right. Let a guy go on the inside, which is an absolute no-no. When you're blocking, when I just redshirted 1 year at Weber State. Shout out to Weber State FCS school in Utah. You don't let people go inside. You never do. Even in high school, you knew that. So for Oregon State for LSU to let someone go on the inside and block the extra point, that's terrible coaching. And I know he's a new coach, but that's bad. It's a bad way to start the year. Now, I did rank this one pretty high. My number 14 game of the week was Boise State at Oregon. Now, others, were like, "What? Why would you do that?" That's a pretty high ranking for an Oregon State game. But I called this, so we can pin this. I still definitely be wrong, but I did anticipate, and I mentioned that Oregon State would be good this year. I'm big on Oregon State. I think they could be the team that represents the Pac-12 North in the Pac-12 championship game. It's hard to say really at this point if Boise was just bad or Oregon State was really good. I'd lean towards the latter. I don't think Boise is amazing, but I still think they're a decent team. So that was a great one. Cincinnati at Arkansas. That one was awesome. Cincinnati barely lost by a touchdown. So they did cover. Arkansas did. They were -6 when I made the recording last week. Cincinnati, man, after losing, they lost so many players to the NFL and reloaded in so many ways. Their quarterback isn't very good, but they're doing awesome. I think they should still be ranked. If it was any other SEC team that lost to Arkansas like that, they'd still be ranked. So I think they should still be ranked. They fell out of the rankings. I think they're decent. Obviously, they're not going to get in the playoffs because they lost a game, unfortunately, for Big Five, Group of Five team. But they did do well. Now, Arkansas, giving their credit, they did show some grit there, and they did win that one. So good job on that one. Now, my number 2 game really wasn't a good game, so this one was a bad prediction for me. But let's see here. Make sure no one's on there messaging me. Now, so Georgia, it was Oregon at Georgia, essentially. It was in Atlanta. Man, Georgia trounced Oregon. They beat them 49-3. Man, oh man, it was like Oregon came, played for a moment, and then picked up their stuff and left. That was a real bad game for them. And Stetson Bennett looked awesome. So I don't know if it's Oregon because they have a new coach and who I call Land Danning, or if just Georgia's just amazing. Now I think it's probably a combination of both. Oregon not being as good as we thought, and Georgia being better than I thought. I do think they should be ranked number 1 because I do think they kicked Oregon's butt way worse and looked more impressive than Alabama did against Utah State. Even though I love Utah State, I went there for school. Still, the Oregon's still a better team, and they made them look like they're nothing. Now, my number 1 top game of the week, I called at Utah, Florida. Now, maybe it wasn't the top game of the week, but it was a good game. As a Utah fan, obviously that one is tough. It's tough to see your team lose when playing so hard. And I don't know. They should have known that Billy Napier was going to run the ball a lot. He did that at Louisiana, did that at Arizona State. For some reason, Utah wasn't prepared to stop the run. What I've heard and some of the insiders of Utah, they didn't do a lot of full contact for much of fall camp. And they wanted to keep the players healthy. So it's kind of an excuse, but maybe it's why they missed so many tackles. Credit Florida where credit is due. They did run really well, but Utah should have been prepared for that. But to be all honest, props to Florida, but let's remember that Utah traveled across the country to open with a tough opponent and lost in the last play of the game. So it wasn't a blowout. Utah looked in control of the game the whole time. They drove down at the end of the game, threw an interception in the end zone from whatever, inside the 5-yard line, whatever it was, and they lost. Loud environment, fans are crazy. Really didn't look like I messed with them that much. Cameron Rising didn't play the best game, but he played good. I mean, when they drove down. Also, do you remember on the goal line stand where Utah got to the red zone twice, or within the 5, and didn't score. The second one was at the end of the game where he threw the interception. The first one, we had a Tavion Thomas wide open run for miles, slip and fall like some act of God, essentially. And then Cam Rising, I believe who it was, I really think that he did make a touchdown. Now, Whittingham said that they weren't told by the booth to review it, which they totally should have. I mean, it wasn't guaranteed, but I think I was probably about 85, 90% sure he did cover. And he was on top of another player, so his knee did not touch. Now, on another side, it's the first time, that I know a lot of people that went to a Florida game for Utah. Come on, Florida fans. I didn't know this is the way it was because I've talked to a lot of people. We went to a lot of different places and treated awesome. Michigan treated great. All other places treated great. Even Ohio State fans treated us great at the Rose Bowl. But man, those Florida fans, everyone, I wasn't there, but everyone that was there said they were treated poorly by Florida fans, even the players afterwards. So, be a little bit more classy. That's all I really have to say on that. Now, let's see here. Kind of went off on me there, but so after playoff elimination, you know the rules. Well, if you don't know them, pretend everyone. This is their first podcast. In playoff elimination, group of 5 teams. You're eliminated after your first loss. Power 5 teams after your second loss. So I know it sounds unfair, but fortunately, that's just how it is. With the new playoffs coming out, that will be interesting. Just so you know, I'll make a separate video on playoffs and how they've changed, and that will be interesting there. But so week 1, remember, UConn, New Mexico State, Hawaii, Charlotte, and UTEP were eliminated. Now week 2 from the American Athletic Conference, Cincinnati, Eastern Carolina, Memphis, USF, Temple, Tulsa were eliminated. That was quite a chunk there. For the Mid-American Conference, Bowling Green, Kent, Ohio, Miami of Ohio, Ball State, Central Michigan, and Western Michigan were eliminated. And the Mountain West Conference, San Diego State got beat by Arizona. Nice. Colorado State got beat by Michigan Big Ten. Utah State got slammed by Alabama. Boise by Oregon State. And the Mountain West Conference is not looking good nowadays. So that's disappointing. Now, Sun Belt playoff eliminated from the playoff was App State, Georgia State, Southern Miss, UL Monroe, Texas State, Troy, and Conference USA, FAU, North Texas, Louisiana Tech, Middle Tennessee, Rice, University of Texas, San Antonio, and last of all, Independence was Army, UMass were eliminated. There's a total of 31 teams eliminated in week 2. I think they were all the group of 5 schools that were eliminated. Not all of them, but all of them were group of 5s. Now, coming up, it's going to start to be the P5 schools as they start to rack up those 2 losses. Now, just so you know, none of the P5 schools have been eliminated yet. So, big SEC, Big Ten, ACC, Pac-12, Big 12, 0 eliminated. Now, like I said, I just predict that they will be here soon. Let's see here. Now, out of the rest, Sun Belt has 6 eliminated, 6 out of 14, so they have 8 left. So they still have 57% of their schools left. Mid-American, half of them are eliminated, 6 out of 6, or 6 out of 12, leaving 6 left. Mountain West, half are eliminated out of 12, so there's 6 left. The AAC, 7 out of 11 eliminated. You're out of here. There's only 4 still left. Conference USA, 8 out of 11 are eliminated, only 3 left. Independence, 4 out of 7. Really, Notre Dame, BYU are a little bit different, but 4 out of 7 are eliminated. Total 37 schools eliminated from the playoffs through week 2. That leaves 72% of schools are still left, or 94 of them, most of those Big 5. Now, I got some interesting games coming up. Now, I wanted to do a little bit different instead of, let's see here. Want to do a little bit different here. So instead of ranking my top 10, I just wanted to go by time slots. Just kind of make notes and talk about that here. So week number 2. It will be week 3 this week. But week number 2, the first game that's kind of interesting is Louisville at UCF. So when I first looked at this, I was kind of looking ahead before the game started on Saturday. Louisville was, I think they were favored by 6.5. Now, wow, how the rankings have changed. Louisville, I think the coach is now on the hot seat. They got blown out by Syracuse big time. Let's see here. So, yeah, they got blown out by Syracuse, which was unexpected. So now UCF is favored by 5.5 points. It's kind of an interesting game. There's no games on Thursday, so you can take a break Thursday night. If you're super busy, I'd probably take a break on Friday night. But it is an interesting game, though, to see how good a group of 5 school will match up against Louisville. I think they'll beat them pretty good there. Yeah, the score on that last game against Syracuse was 31-7. So, and they were not looking good there at all. So I'm not sure what's going on. They have all the talent, but just not very good coaching. And I think he's going to get canned by the end of the year. I can't remember his name, but next, so that's the latest before Saturday. The Saturday games that I thought were interesting is Alabama, #1 Alabama at Texas, probably the game of the week. It's first thing 10 a.m. Mountain Time, so woohoo, it's going to be over fast. It's probably going to be over after the first quarter. They're at Texas. They're favored by 20 points. Alabama, really, I don't know what Texas is going to do to stop them. Texas has a good offense, questionable defense. It's going to be a blowout. I would probably take Alabama in the points by 20 points there. Thank you. So Alabama, they're kind of the way I put it is interesting because they're going to get beat out so bad. Alabama's going to beat Texas really bad. Honestly, I want to see Alabama lose one, but I don't know if you want it to be Texas because it's like really Texas is like almost as spoiled as Alabama. Although I do think Alabama's probably the most hated team in the country. And I mean, I guess that comes with success. It also comes when your coach is Nick Saban is a total douche. Now, next important game. So I lived in Kansas City for about 6 years. One interesting game is let's see. Just gonna. Sorry, I gotta fix something on the stream here. Okay, sorry about that, guys. So let's see. So lived in Kansas City for about 10 years. Well, 10 years, 4 years. No, 6 years. I can't speak today. I would say it's a Monday, but it's not. It's a Wednesday. So lived in Kansas City for about 6 years, and if you don't know, that is mainly Big Ten country, and But it's kind of a weird intersection of Mizzou fans because they are in Columbia, which is about a couple hours east, I believe. K-State, which is in Manhattan, Kansas, in the middle of nowhere, a couple hours west, and Kansas, which is in crap, I can't even think of the city. It's literally like a suburb of Kansas City, about 45 minutes away. So interesting game is Mizzou will go to K-State. Now they're not rivals like Kansas, Missouri is, or K-State, Kansas are, but they don't really like each other because it's like playing your brother, kind of. They both hate Kansas a lot, but they still don't like each other very much. So that will be interesting. K-State's favored by 7.5 points. It's at K-State. I really think K-State should be ranked, but you got 8 SEC schools ranked, so there you go. I do think, well, Mizzou's a SEC school. I'm surprised they're not ranked. That is at 10 a.m. Unfortunately, that's the same time as the Alabama game. But the nice thing is, because Alabama game will probably be over by the first quarter, you can jump over and watch Mizzou K-State because that will be a better game. Now, App State, next one at 1:30 p.m. is App State at Texas A&M. Now, App State really, they lost to North Carolina, unfortunately, but it was probably one of the best games of the week. And App State was down 20 points, came back, almost won, probably should have won. They're going to go to Texas A&M. I think they're going to overlook App State. They're favored by 19 points. I don't think App State's going to win, but I think they'll cover those 19 points. I hope they can. That would be pretty cool. So I love Texas A&M. My brother lives in Texas. His wife is a big Texas A&M fan, so I have nothing against Texas A&M, but it's nice to see the little guys win or do well. And now, what I would probably say is, runner-up for game of the week is number 24 Tennessee at number 17 Pitt. That's a ranked matchup. Pitt's the home dog, so they're the home team, but also a ranked home dog. So that's kind of interesting there. Tennessee's favored by 6.5 points. So it's a kind of an interesting dynamic between Tennessee being very good offense, which I actually do enjoy watching, and Pitt being a very stout defense. I'm not sure who's going to cover here. I'd say it's close. I probably wouldn't bet on it, but I think Pitt will cover, but Tennessee will win. So that will be an interesting game. And, Pitt won last week and they didn't cover. So maybe they can this way. Kind of they were favored by 7.5 against West Virginia and won by 6. So whoever bet on them was in trouble. Next one is Washington State at Wisconsin. It's the same time as the Tennessee Pitt game and also the App State Texas A&M game. It's at 1:30 p.m. Mountain Time. Wisconsin's at number 19. They're favored by 17.5 points. So unfortunately for Washington State, I don't think they have a chance. And honestly, it's a big spread, but looking at what Washington State did, I mean, it's kind of a high spread. I think they may cover, but I could totally see Wisconsin destroying them on there. And then let's see here. And then the next game that's really interesting to me is number 25, Houston at Texas Tech. Texas Tech is favored by 3 points, pretty much for being at home. So it's a very close game. I I'd be interesting. So it's at 2 p.m. So I'd probably be watching App State, Texas. We're Tennessee at Pitt. Man, I wish they'd space these out better. Um, I'm not really probably going to watch the WSU or the Washington State game because the other ones. So Houston's just a half hour later. Not very good timing. So I wish this one was moved to like 3 p.m. Mountain Time. The other problem is that another good game, which is, if you lived in Kansas City, you would hear your coworkers that, hated each other. But there's Iowa State at Iowa. Now, Iowa State, even if they're a better team, always seems to lose this one. Iowa's favored by 3.5 points. So they're going to, they're favored. So we'll see on that one. I think Iowa wins and they cover on that. That's just based on history. They just know how to dominate Iowa State. Now, they would have to score a point. And apparently there was a field goal and 2 safeties. Is that how they got to, was it 2 field goals and 2 safeties? It was like 7-3 against South Dakota, which is insane. But kind of interesting. I'm glad I didn't watch that game. I just saw it after. It's like, seriously, who would want to watch that? So you're right. I mean, Iowa State may cover because of how bad Iowa was doing, but maybe they're just gearing up for this week. Also, a really great game at 5 p.m. is Kentucky at number 12, Florida. Now, I did just watch my Utes go down, lose to Florida. This is a big game to play after playing the Utes. Physical team. We're super physical that game. But it's still, Kentucky is a very physical team. They have players out because of, I think there's suspensions. Florida's favored by 6. I think they'll cover. I think Florida's going to be a better team this year than people think. Hopefully, they can. Well, I wouldn't mind. I do like seeing the underdogs win, so I wouldn't mind seeing Kentucky pull it out there. As a Utes fan, I'd love to see Florida do well because it makes us look good. But hey, I'm all for rooting. And guess what? What I think doesn't make a change to what happens in the actual game. So Kentucky, number 20, Kentucky at Florida, that will be a good one. That's at 5 p.m. The nice part about that one is there's no other great games at the same time. So I think I'll be watching that. I'll be spying or on a second screen. I'll watch number 10, USC at Stanford at 5:30 just because still kind of they did well against Rice. Stanford's not great, so we'll see. But it's a little bit more of a step, just kind of see how their offense is doing well. See if their defense actually is good going forward. Now, the next games, the next 3, we got 3 games at Pac-12 after dark. So kind of interesting how that worked out. And I lied. One of them's not Pac-12. One of them is BYU. They'd hate me for saying that. So BYU Compadres down south. They're playing. So number 9 Baylor is at number 21 BYU. BYU is favored by 3 points. It's at 8:15 p.m. Mountain Time. And that is a weird line. I know BYU looked decent. Or they looked good against South Florida, but South Florida is not a good team. I didn't even put it in. I mean, I wouldn't even. They're probably one of the worst, or one of the. No, they're probably in the lower end of group of 5 schools. Probably put them out of 131 or 32 teams there. They're probably, I would say, in like 80s or 90s maybe ranked. Now, Baylor's ranked number 9. They were great last year. They are going to BYU, and there's some hatred there with their offensive coordinator at Baylor was the offensive coordinator at BYU. But I still think BYU being favored by 3 is weird. Maybe they're trying to get all the Mormons to bet against BYU or something. Because I honestly don't think they'll cover. Maybe they win, but I still think Baylor will win. No, that is a tough environment, LaVell Edwards. If it's late, it's starting to get a little bit cooler. It has been hot here, so maybe that won't be a huge effect. That would be a good one. That one's at 8:15. I believe the next one is at 8:30. Oregon State at Fresno State. That one's really interesting there because let me double check something real quick. Okay, so yeah, one of the good games. So this is kind of the ruler for Oregon State. So everyone's going to be like, oh, they're going to do well against the Pac-12. Pac-12 sucks, what everyone says. So what does it matter? Well, Fresno State's supposed to be pretty good this year coming up. Boise State's decent. Fresno State's supposed to be pretty good. They have an even line. So I think Oregon State's gonna win. Obviously, they would cover if that. I really do think that they're gonna represent the North because I don't think Cal's that great. Oregon doesn't look that great. Stanford's not great. Washington State's not that great. So I do think that they have a good chance to cover, and we'll definitely be able to know a little bit better by what they do against Fresno State. Next, the last game of the week, and a late one is Mississippi State at Arizona. I think that one's going to be a good game to watch too, especially since I was really surprised on what Arizona did against what they did against San Diego State last week. So is it a question of Arizona State being good, Arizona being good, or San Diego State not being very good, or both? I think it's a little bit of both, which is hard to say because San Diego State has been decent for a long time. But it is really interesting. I'm excited for Arizona to be good this year. Mississippi State is favored by 10.5 points, which I think is a little much at Arizona. Hopefully the fans show up and make it a good game there. So I think Arizona will cover, but they'll lose. And then we'll see. Make it a good game. So that would be a pretty crazy wild game, and kind of tiebacks to back in the day when Leach, would go when he was at Washington State there. So yeah, I think there's some great games, especially for week 2. It's pretty interesting that this kind of schedule happens. Usually, it's one of the worst schedules of the year because they know that all the marquee games should be at the end there. Now, I just wanted to touch base also just at the end of the video here. One thing that is interesting that happened, right when I posted my video last week is that they did change the playoffs. Now, let me double check something here. Okay, is that working? Sorry about that. So they did change the playoffs. It's probably going to not happen until 2026. So one of the interesting things is they made it a 12-team playoff versus what it is 4-team playoff. Now, as a Ute fan, I had to suffer through BCS, going undefeated twice, not getting in, being really good. 2019, not getting in, given the 14 playoff, understanding that because of the loss last year, being good, but coming up short. If this, I actually wrote a paper in my English class because I didn't want to do something controversial like politics, but I wrote a paper about how the playoffs should expand. Proposed 16. Over time, I've actually been good with 12. But this really is going to change the sport. I really like it. I know a lot of SEC fans kind of poo-poo it because, other teams have auto bids, but this really kind of levels the playing field a lot. Now, I know the same teams are probably going to win it, like Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, the Clemsons, whatever. Not that they're good this year anymore. They have no offense. But it's going to level the playing field. At least teams, as long as they have those auto bids for the conferences, it will make conference races more interesting because, hey, maybe you're not going to win it, but you get into you win your conference. You're in. I know it's only 6, so some of them kind of are at large, but theoretically, if you win, you're in as far as your conference. And then, hey, if they lose, so what? You still would have the awesome thing to do, which is looking forward that you could use that in recruiting and everything like that. So really, if they have this 12-team playoff, I foresee Utah having gotten 4 times at least in the last 20 years since 2004, so the last 18 years. Honestly, this is kind of a hot take. I think Utah could have won it in 2004 or 2008. They're very good teams those years. Now, the powers that be have just gotten stronger and stronger over time, so it's hard to say now, but hey, at least little schools can get in. And that's really awesome. I just don't understand how people think that it will take away from the regular season. Yeah, I know it will make it so one loss doesn't ruin your season, but guess what? It will make it so conference championships will matter. So instead of maybe focusing on getting in the playoff, they're focusing on winning it or going undefeated. Maybe teams can focus on winning their division or getting the conference championship or winning that a little steps at a time. And I do think that is very valuable. Also, it would have been, I know what's going to happen. You're going to get 6 schools in from the different conferences, and then that large is going to be so. The camera shuts off after a half hour. But you may get 6 schools in, and that means there's 6 at large. That means there's going to be 3 SEC and 3 Big 12 teams. So whatever, there's going to be a total of let's say there's the auto SEC and 4 at large. That would give you 5. So the auto Big 10 plus 2 at large, that'll give you 8, and then the 4 other ones. But hey, even if it's like that, it's better than not being able to get it at all. So that's kind of my thoughts on the championship or the college football playoff. I've really been asking for this for years. I almost boycott it every year because I'm so pissed off about it, especially ever since LSU played Alabama. Literally rematch. Only 2 teams get in and it's a rematch. Come on, dude, that's ridiculous. So that's what I say there. But I appreciate anyone watching. We've had some people jump in here. Had a couple of people jump in the Twitter spaces, but no one asked any questions. But really, I am going to post this to YouTube as I did last week, Facebook Live, Twitter Live, really available for any questions. I will look across all platforms. Any questions or thoughts, I'll voice them. I'm welcome to changing any format or doing anything funny that you guys are wanting to do. Also, would love to get a co-host if anyone ever has the opportunity. And also, I will be posting this to podcast. So I'm waiting for Apple to approve, but it should be in all podcasts here eventually. It is available through Podbean and most of them except for Google and Apple podcasts. Like, subscribe, follow, retweet, whatever it is on the podcast. Please 5-star reviews. That's it. That helps me get to everyone. Comments, subscribe, share with everyone you like. Really just want to build this, and I love college football, and I don't have any politics. There's no bias. There's no biases really. The normal biases that you get from either working for a big corporation that has so you work for CBS, ESPN, Fox, or whatever. That has biases that way. I don't share politics. It's just college football, so it's a place where you guys can come and not have to get the other inputs. And I appreciate anyone for watching and getting to this point. And have a nice week and have fun watching, guys.